Hey guys, it's me Dory. Today I am going to go through my lovely Jun Mochizuki collection, and as you can see she actually doesn't have that many series, even though she's been a mangaka for over 20 years now. But that's okay, because sometimes quality defeats quantity, and I'm sure if you've read any of these series you know what I mean. And not only are all three of her series just amazing, even with one just being a one-shot, but her art is absolutely gorgeous. And I will definitely be spending some thorough time going through her art books, off to the right here. Now there is something else from my Mochizuki collection that is missing from the shelf, which if you know what it is, you know why it's absent from the shelf, but I will also be doing a thorough overview of that as well. So yeah, not too much else to say in these intros, so we will just continue this at the table here. So to start, we're just going to jump straight into Pandora Hearts. This isn't her first series, but this is her first full-length series, and the series she's probably most well known for. I could only fit 10 volumes in frame, so I just decided to handpick 10 covers that I liked, most of which include my favorite characters. I actually first read this series probably about 15 years ago, and at the time I had a hard time comprehending the story, because I read each volume kind of far apart from one another, until I eventually was able to finish the series online. And at that point I was like, eventually I will probably own this myself, so I will give it a thorough reread then. And when I finally got my hands on it, that's exactly what I did. And I definitely enjoyed the story much better once I was able to read it in one go and comprehend everything that was going on. Because some stories are best enjoyed when you do have an opportunity to give them a full reread all the way through. As you can tell with the cover of the first volume here, up to the cover of the 24th volume, which is the last volume, you can definitely see the growth of Mochizuki's art, which is always another thing that's great to enjoy about a long-running series, is the evolution of the author's art. If I had to give Pandora Hearts a ranking, I've read so many series in my life that I could probably whittle it down to top 50, but of the 300 plus manga series that I actually own, I would say Pandora Hearts is easily in the top 20. The story itself is pretty convoluted, but by the end of the series, pretty much everything is tied up pretty neatly. Since this is a collection video, I don't want to ramble too long, but just give some of my basic thoughts as to how fond I am of this series. And of course, this is what led me to be just an avid Mochizuki follower, no matter what, and that I will definitely continue to collect any and all series that she does in the future. So this was not going to fit in frame the way I had my stuff set up, so I decided to do something a little different for this one. This is the limited edition Pandora Hearts box set, or just the Pandora box, which I believe was the first box set that Yen Press ever released, and boy is this definitely not like your typical box sets. For one, this thing is an absolute behemoth. I struggled to even carry it in here. This is actually the second edition of this box. I don't remember when it was first released, but it was out of print for a while until I believe Yen Press probably got enough urging to re-release it, and that was when I bought this. For now, I believe it is out of print again. I'd be surprised if Yen Press does a third reprint, but if you ever get an opportunity to get your hands on this, I would definitely say do it for sure. So here I'll just show the different sides of the box here, and you can see the chains following around the box. Here's one of the sides here, just showing how they included metal handles to the box, which are definitely needed for picking this damn thing up. Here's just a quick look of the back side of the box. Now I'll go ahead and here and open this thing. And here is the treasure you will find inside. Yen Press went out of their way to make collector's editions of these, and they are absolutely phenomenal. Since I have the singles, I've only flipped through these just to indulge in the color pages. But besides that, they've basically just been kept in this box. And that's it for my showcase for the box itself. I will take one volume out to show at the table. Okay, so here we are back at the table, and I just wanted to show off just one of the books from the collector's edition. I definitely like the window design, and figured that was probably the best way that they could do a collector's edition like this. There's just the cover of the first volume, and the cover of volume 2, since the collector's editions are 2-in-1s. And just other art that came with the original volumes. And then, yeah, like I said, they reinstated all the color pages, which the singles don't have. And that includes all the color pages, not just the ones in the beginning. So if we flip a little later here, here's another color page introducing one of the chapters. And it also includes each of Mochizuki's blurbs at the end of the volumes in color as well. And in addition, the collector's editions are bigger than the regular singles, so the art is even bigger to enjoy in the collector's editions, which is one of the biggest pluses for sure. So yeah, we'll move on to the next one here. So here are the Pandora Hearts Caucus Race novels, and I also just included the Pandora Hearts DVDs, since they have Jun Mochizuki artwork on them. I actually have not read the Caucus Race novels, as I'm a bit slow when it comes to reading novels of just anything. But even if it takes me several more years to get around to these, I shall eventually. These are also definitely out of print and have been for several years now. Volumes 1 and 2 are a little hard to find, but not significantly. Volume 3 is basically impossible to find. Managing to find a set of these was difficult on its own, because most sets only include Volume 1 and 2. 3, I don't believe, goes for any cheaper than $100, and that was a couple years ago, so it may even be more now. And I also have not watched the Pandora Hearts anime. My DVDs are still shrink-wrapped. And the anime was produced when the story was still going, so the story of the anime is incomplete. The composer of the Pandora Hearts anime is also the same composer as for Puella Magi, so I'm sure watching the anime is definitely an experience of its own, even without the amazing art of Mochizuki. And even if I don't get around to reading Caucus Race for a while, it is also just nice to own, just for the fact that there is more Mochizuki art to indulge in. And that's actually not it for Pandora Hearts. But for the English volumes, that is the complete Pandora Hearts set. And we move to the next. Next here is her current ongoing series, Case Study of Vanitas. The series has been in production since 2014, I believe, but so far currently only has 11 volumes, as Mochizuki takes frequent hiatuses for health issues. Her focusing on her health is obviously first and foremost. It does make waiting on new content difficult, but sometimes perfection requires patience, and I am perfectly okay with that. There are currently 11 volumes. I don't have volume 11 included, not just because it can't fit in the frame, but because volume 11 actually did get an interesting release in English, which I will show off momentarily. Even though Case Study of Vanitas isn't complete, I would say that I enjoy the story just a bit more than Pandora Hearts, which is something I spent a lot of time mulling over, because I actually didn't think too much of the story when I first read it, and like I said, there is definitely plenty of story left. But even for what we have so far, I do think I'd rank the story just a little bit above Pandora Hearts. I would possibly even say it's in my top 25 series of all time. But yet again, the story isn't finished, so I can't definitively put it there yet. And of course, yet again, looking at these covers, you can see Mochizuki's art continuing to evolve. It literally just gets better and better, and I really can't wait for a continuation, even if the next volume takes a couple years to come out. And yeah, if you're a Pandora Hearts fan and you were curious about the series, or if you've only read a couple volumes and haven't chosen to pick it up any further, even with the long releases in between, this is just an absolute must-have. Maybe even regardless of if you've read Pandora Hearts or not. And there are also vampires, so, I mean, what else is there to say about that? Moving along. So this is why I decided to show off the English version of Volume 11 separately. Case Study of Vanitas, as far as I'm aware, has only had 2 special edition releases, and I actually bought them when they came out. The Japanese special edition of Volume 10 has the same cover as the original Volume 10, but the font is just red instead of blue. But it also contained this little art book right here, which I believe just has various sketches that Mochizuki's shown off on Twitter. So here's just a quick flip through of that. Unfortunately, this didn't get an English release, so I can't read any of the dialogue. But that's okay. The Japanese Volume 11 came with this alternate cover of Vanitas holding this tart, and also came with this art book, which is basically filled with pre-sketches before she began Vanitas, as she had the idea of Vanitas in the works while she was even still working on Pandora Hearts. So it's all just basic pre-sketches and design ideas. Vanitas, for the most part, remained the same. Noe changed quite a bit, but she definitely wanted to make sure that she had the design she wanted down pat. Volume 11's English release was very intriguing. Yen Press did release a special edition for Volume 11, that you could buy specifically from their website. Now, they didn't initially say how it was going to be released, so I was just under the assumption that it was going to be similar to the Japanese release, and that Volume 11 would just have a unique cover and would be bundled with the art book, and that I would just buy Volume 11 with the standard cover separately. That's not what happened, because this is the Volume 11 that came with the special edition. This, right here, is just a box. That included the standard edition Volume 11 and a translation of the art book that came with the Japanese Volume 11. So yes, as you can see, this is the same art book, but all the little notes and stuff are translated. So it was just the box that had the alternate Japanese special edition cover. So quite a weird release, but honestly, I can't even say anything about it. The fact that Yen Press even released this is pretty phenomenal, because English versions of special editions are very rare. Most of the English side of special editions are just variant covers, so for special editions to be bundled with something like an art book is extremely rare. Does the box look a little strange on the shelf? A bit, because it is just a slightly bit taller, and it's very thick, but it's not gravely awkward enough that it would hinder the enjoyment of looking at the spines if you decided to keep the box on the shelf next to the other volumes. I would just love for this to give way for more publishers in English to do more special editions, but even just having this one special edition for a series that I absolutely love is really enough for me, even now. Before I get into the rest of my collection, which is all in Japanese, except for the first art book, this is Crimson Shell, which is the one-shot she did before releasing Pandora Hearts, and the art is of course still in its infancy at this point. But you can even see in the outfits that she draws comparisons to similar outfits even in Pandora Hearts. Crimson Shell was pretty good. I feel like it set up a story that could have most definitely been expanded on, so it kind of did what it needed to do and then it just ended. But I feel like even in this one volume you can still see ideas of how she wanted to story tell that got fleshed out further in Pandora Hearts. And even this one volume story is enough to cement really the foundings of Mochizuki's work going forward. So if you just want a quick read for what would lead into her stories in the future, this is definitely a simple pickup. It is out of print and a part of one of Yen Press's very early releases, but you can find volumes of this for retail price even now, easily on eBay. So yeah, just a simple enough read that if you have not read Pandora's Hearts or Case Study of Vanitas, and you want to see what all the hype is about, it'll definitely make you curious for the rest of her work. Next, I have some of the Pandora Hearts special releases, and one of the official guidebooks. There are 3 guidebooks total, 8.5, 18.5, and 24+1. So far, I only have the first one. And then of the special editions, there's volume 16 and 17, 19 and 20, and 22. Most special editions in Japanese come with something bundled together. Like it looks like 17 came with the keychain, and 19 and 20 came with these little figures. Unless they're art books, I usually don't care about bundled special editions, unless it comes with something special, like my Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card Volume 15, with all the bookmarks of the covers. But a lot of times special editions also come with variant covers, like these do. But I will say the special editions are kind of hard to find, even without the bundles. I was lucky enough to get these at decent prices, but volumes 16 and 22 have been kind of hard to find. The guidebooks are actually pretty easy to get. You can usually find bundles of all 3 for a pretty decent price, considering shipping from Japan. But yeah, just another showcase of some more special editions. Now, this is a very interesting part of my Mochizuki collection. The Alice in Wonderland volume is just an anthology that was done by various artists, and she just happened to do the cover and back cover artwork for it. As I love Alice in Wonderland, I found this volume pretty cheap online, just decided to buy it. I've actually read a translation of the anthology online. Most of them are just comedy chapters. I believe I remember one to be pretty dark. Mochizuki doesn't actually contribute to any of the chapters herself. She only does the cover art, which is actually included in her second art book. But that's okay. I just bought it because I wanted to. But the other volumes here, I would say are pretty intriguing. And even if you're a Mochizuki fan, I'd be surprised if many people even knew this existed, because I actually didn't know about it. I usually follow authors' works pretty closely on Baka Manga updates, but this work actually isn't listed under Jun Mochizuki's works. This is a series called Roland and the Forgotten King. It does have a manga, but it is based off of these light novels. And the art of these light novels, as you can obviously see, are done by Mochizuki. Like I said, I was very surprised to find out she did the art for these, because I thought I tracked down as much of her artwork as I could find that wasn't related to Pandora Hearts or Case Study of Vanitas. This is all 7 volumes. I found someone selling a set online a couple years ago, and that was one of the quickest purchases of my life. And like most light novels, it contains various art on the inside as well. And that's honestly all I had to say about that. I don't know anything about the series. The manga adaptation was not done by her, but the artist did follow her art style as close as they possibly could, so you can definitely see the influence. But I would assume if she did the art for this series, that maybe Roland and the Forgotten King had a plot that she was intrigued by. I don't really know exactly how they choose artists for light novels. As far as I'm aware, this is the only other series that she's been involved with that wasn't a series of her own. And yeah, if you're a Mochizuki fanatic like me and didn't know about the series, I hope you managed to learn something today. So that's all for single volumes, and last will be the art books. And here are probably one of the most important art books I own. This one off to the right here, I just included for a moment because it is the official animation guide for Pandora Hearts. I will get to the main art books themselves in just a moment, but I just wanted to show it off real quick. Just various artwork from the series. Character descriptions. Other things you'd typically find in animation guides like these. Interviews and such. Basic character design sketches. And that's about it for that one, so I'll just set that one off to the side and focus on the main art books here. So, these are her 2 art books for Pandora Hearts. As far as I'm aware, there is not yet an art book yet for Case Study of Vanitas, which I'm honestly kind of surprised, considering I believe Odds and Ends came out before she was even halfway done with Pandora Hearts. And I'm sure there's definitely enough artwork for a full Case Study of Vanitas art book, but maybe they're waiting for something, I don't know. The first one actually did get an English release. The second one unfortunately did not, but not too big of a deal. I want to say the Japanese version of the first art book also included some kind of slipcase, but I'm actually not certain. Yet again, this art book is out of print, but I was able to find this for not too much above retail price. So even though the box of this copy is a little beat up, it's still in decent condition. So I'm glad I was able to get this. So let's give it a look here. If you remember, this is the art that was on the top of the box set. Now, I could spend a lot of time thoroughly examining this art book, but I think I'm just going to kind of quickly go through it here and maybe eventually make a separate video just of all the artwork itself. Now, one thing to note about Mochizuki artwork that you will definitely notice in her later artworks, and especially in Case Study of Vanitas, is that she really likes the color blue. And that's okay, because the way she uses her blues is phenomenal. Also, if anyone is curious for no reason, my favorite characters in this series are Echo and Alice. Here is artwork from Crimson Shell. This piece right here is artwork I believe she did later after Crimson Shell ended, along with this one. As you can tell, her art has evolved. And here's all of Mochizuki's blurbs for each piece of artwork, which is what I love about having the English versions. And that will be it for that one there. Did not get an English release, unfortunately. But I think you can get this shipped from Japan for anywhere between $60 to $80. And this book is a bit thicker than Odds and Ends. And it's just Mochizuki in general, so the art book is obviously worth getting, regardless of even if you have read any of her series. Or at least that's how I feel about it. So we'll just flip through this real quick. See, she started using blue a lot more as Pandora Hearts was ending, and that ended up bleeding into Vanitas. Like I said, her use of blue is just absolutely phenomenal, and it just really makes the pictures pop that much more. Here is continuing to see further evolution of her artwork, which I don't know how many times I probably said in this video. But when you can enjoy a series and be able to enjoy its artwork as well, then that's just as much of a bonus you could ask for. I know that Pandora Hearts had lots of calendar releases, I believe, which I'm sure is also where a lot of this artwork came from. Okay, just had to rest on this page for a second because look at my darling Echo. Oh, and this page also, because of my darling Alice. There's all the volume covers. So this was basically just a pickup of the rest of the Pandora Hearts artwork that wasn't included in odds and ends. Here is all the little pictures that I believe were used in the table of contents in each Pandora Hearts volume. So that's kind of a cool way that they collected those there. And another thing about this art book is that it includes other series that she did artwork for. This here is going back to Roland and the Forgotten King that was mentioned earlier. And here's the covers for those. Which I actually don't remember if I got this art book before I found out about the novels for Roland and the Forgotten King, but there you go. There is the Alice in Wonderland artwork. I didn't show the back cover, but you can see it here on the right. I don't recognize all of these series, but these are all just various artworks that she did for other series. There's Yumeko Jabami right there from Kakegurui. And here's the blurbs again, which unfortunately I can't read. That's just an adorable picture. Here's a picture of pretty much the whole cast. And here is the last page of the art book, which shows the ending of Pandora Hearts and the send-off to the beginning of Case Study of Vanitas. And honestly is probably one of my favorite pieces of her artwork. And I don't really know what else to say. I just had to stare at it for a bit. And yeah, that's it for the art books there. Maybe I'll do a short individual video of just these two art books in the future. But for now, that'll do. And here we finally reached the end of the video. It's crazy to think that after 20 years, in certain ways, you can say it's unfortunate that Mochizuki doesn't have more series, but at the same time, these series, even with Crimson Shell just being a one-shot, are just so great, and you can tell so much thought has been put into each world that you come to realize just how much goes into producing stories like these. But whatever the case may be, you really just can't go wrong with any of her works. And like I said, even though Case Study of Vanitas has been in the works since 2014 and only has 11 volumes, and considering how the story is going, there's definitely plenty more to tell. There could be another decade until Vanitas finishes. But that's okay, because If a story's good enough, no matter what circumstances, fans will always stick around, eagerly waiting for more. And Mochizuki is just one of those creators for me. And I'm sure a lot of others feel the same way. So yeah, if you stuck around this far, thanks as always for watching. I still have 2 main parts of my collection to show off, and then eventually I'll also get to showing off the entirety of my manga collection, which I'm still thinking of how I'm going to film that one. So yeah, as always, if you enjoy my ramblings enough to make it to the end here, I appreciate it as always. And I definitely hope to see you next time. So here's my send-off, and thanks for watching. Bye!